Okay, we're ready to get started. So good evening and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners March 26, 2019, 5:30 public hearing. May I ask everyone to stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Thank you. So let the record reflect that Commissioner Kearns and Commissioner Cuny are present for this evening's hearing. Commissioner French is absent. I would like to just have some ground rules, just go over those quickly, just to ask people to turn down their cell phones or devices on vibrate so that way it doesn't disturb any speakers. And then if anyone wishes to testify, if they would please fill out one of the yellow forms, then that's what we need. So if you would do that so we can have that record, that would be great. So we will begin tonight with the first of our open public forums. We'll have two. This one is for any citizens wishing to speak on 3 minutes on any topic. So I will open that. Okay. And I do have one citizen who's wanting to speak, so I will open the public forum at this point and ask Steve Wilson if you'd come down. Right there, and then we'll...
All right, my name is Steve Wilson. I live up in Indian Trail area on North Sutherland Street. Been a resident of Spokane area since 1965, except for a few years when we were out in Missouri pastoring. And I was also in the trucking industry for 40 years, 40 plus, and retired here last year, and predominantly was in the Northwest, went all around the nation and in several of the provinces in Canada. So saw a lot. I could tell people I don't know it all, but I don't have all the answers. I might have a couple suggestions. But I want to talk about how that we post our seasonal weight restrictions, breakup limits and so on for soft road beds. And for so many years we've used the pounds per inch width. I think it's currently on most of them it's 250 pounds per inch width, and the engineers have worked that out, and that's fine and that works. And so I think the main goal is to keep the larger trucks, the semis, as I was explaining to John Dixon earlier about this. You know, most trucks we had in heavy semis, you know, we had a GVWR of 105,500 pounds, and loaded or empty, your steer axle weight, that's your front two tires that you steer, decide where you're going to go, was over 12,000 pounds. And so you had 6,000 pounds on each tire. And so some of the states do it one way and some do it another way, and like in Montana they just want you to be under 11,000, but then if you get on some of the side roads they might have a more restrictive weight restriction. But in Spokane County it's been that, and I think probably for the most part it really hasn't been too much of an issue. But there is one road that is used a lot, and that's Bigelow Gulch Road. And you've got the URM warehouse up there, Food Service America, Safeway, a lot of manufacturers, lots of trucks. URM alone has 100 trucks a day going in and out of that facility. That doesn't count Safeway. And so Bigelow Gulch is a mainstream route, and most of us from the area, we understand that when spring breakup happens, you gotta change your route sometimes. But the poor guy from Tennessee that doesn't understand how we do things up here, he gets caught. And I was discussed this with Deputy Darren Powers, who is the head of commercial vehicle enforcement with the Spokane County Sheriff's Department. And he agrees with me, and he's had to cut a lot of slack. But if he sees someone he knows from the area and they're just trying to cut a fast one, and then he writes them a ticket. But other times he's written them warnings, and as long as they don't, you know, see him up there again a week or two later, they're fine. The main goal is to keep those heavy trucks, especially the steer axles, off of those roads because they have soft road beds, and then we have to go in and do a lot of repair. And eventually that route is slated to be a year-round, all-season route, but it's not going to happen for a few years, all the way to Forker. where you've been building the interchange there. So I'm thinking that, and again, I discussed this it's Doug Jones, right? That's in charge of he's in the roads department, Spokane County Roads. We've talked about this, and we all agree that either a 16,000 or a 26,000, do whichever you want. Darren Powers thinks 26,000 will work. That keeps the semis off. It's easy to see. They don't have to stop and say, look at this sign that's got all these little numbers on it. In fact, if you were to get on a road like that with a heavy truck and you saw that sign, you'd have to pull over and stop and get out and do the math and figure it out on the side of the road and then decide, how am I going to make a U-turn in the middle of Big Old Gulch? So that we either go with one or the other. It'd be very easy, like you're going out country homes and you come to the county, it says no trucks over 16,000, GVWR, their total weight rating, so whether you're loaded or empty, and that's basically it.
Okay, thank you very much. I know you've extended the 3 minutes, but our county road engineer is actually here, so he's hearing this as well. So Chad Coles is right there. I don't know if you've met Chad. Yeah, Chad. Okay, very good. So thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, and I look forward to hearing from Chad in the future about it. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to testify tonight? So this is second call. Third and final call for anyone wishing to come down and talk at our open public hearing. Okay, so I will close the public hearing. I do want to let people know that there has been one item that was stricken from tonight's agenda. So tonight's meeting on the emergency interim ordinance regarding small cell deployment in Spokane County right-of-ways has been stricken for mootness. The ordinance 2019-0102 was repealed and replaced with a new emergency interim ordinance. A public hearing will be advertised and held on the new ordinance within 60 days as required by law, and we would encourage you to attend at that point. So, and that is item number 4 on tonight's agenda. So next we have item number 5, and we'll listen to Mr. Kevin Cook.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Kevin Cook, Environmental Services Director. And this is the public hearing that's been set regarding the board's consideration of proposed modifications to the Spokane County Code, Chapter 8.03, also known as the Sanitary Sewer Code. And these modifications, if the board so approves, will go into effect April 1st of this year. Now, the most substantive changes that we're proposing is an increase in the sewer service fees. As you will recall, the Wastewater Policy Advisory Board met on November 28th of 2018, and after considering the information presented by the Environmental Services Department, that board voted unanimously to recommend an increase to the sewer service fee by 50 cents per equivalent residential unit. The proposed modifications also include increases to the sewer connection permit fees, which have not been changed for some time, additional inspection fees, and increases to the charges associated with extra sewer service stubs that are requested by property owners when the county is in progress building a sewer project, and we get requests from property owners perhaps for additional stubs. And it's been over 3 years since we increased any of these charges and fees. January of 16 was the last time that we had increases. But first of all, the sewer service fees. As I said, we're proposing a rate increase of 50 cents per equivalent residential unit per month. The chart that you see here illustrates the minor change in sewer service fees over the past 8 years. We last had a rate increase in 2016, and prior to that, the last increase was, as you see there, between 2013 and 2014. The chart shows the rate for a single-family house within the cities of Spokane Valley and Liberty Lake. And I want to point out that the rate for our customers in the unincorporated areas is $1.10 less per month than those rates that are shown on this table, due to the fact that we retain the APA fees in the unincorporated areas. The cities of Spokane Valley and Liberty Lake have opted to take their share of the APA revenue, which is used, in our case, we use those revenues to help pay debt service on the treatment plant. So that's the reason for that $1.10 differential. So as you can see, we went from a rate in 2011 of $45.04 to a proposed rate that would start April 1st of $48.01. And if you annualize that rate of increase over the 8-year period, it's an average of 1.6% per year. With regard to permit fees, we simply need to recover our costs through these permit fees, and we've realized that there are additional costs associated with a manhole tap or a sewer main tap, because frankly we have to be there when the work starts and be there for the entire period of time that they're working on the tap. So we've allowed an hour inspection for that work as opposed to the 30-minute inspection that we have when we go to inspect a completed sewer connection. So we're proposing that the connections, extensions, dry sewer installations, repairs, alterations, all of those would be at $130, which is an increase of $5 over the current rate of $125. And then for taps, they would go from $125 to $165 in light of the additional cost of inspection. Occasionally, we have extra inspection fees, including callbacks and additional inspection time, overtime inspection, and very infrequently we have a request for a weekend or a holiday inspection. And in all of these cases, we have realigned the costs with the actual average cost of providing the service. So callback inspections where maybe something is not right when we do the inspection, and now we've got to make a return trip to verify that the work has been corrected, $55 per inspection. Hourly inspection rate for additional inspection time, if we're at the site and the inspection goes well over a half an hour, which we typically allow for inspection, then that's charged at $40 per hour, up from $37 per hour. And overtime rate is $50 per hour in the case that we're kept late past working hours and the inspector is now on overtime. And then weekend holiday inspections, we have by contract a 4-hour minimum when an employee needs to go out, is called out for an inspection. So that's proposed at 150 as opposed to 100. Extra stubs. And this is, again, this is a case where we are in the process of building a sewer project. We design the sewer service stubs where we know that they need to be. We provide extra stubs where we can see that there is likely going to be a need for additional service stubs. But we do have cases where the owner wants an additional stub for something that they foresee doing on their property that would be outside the realm of what we would typically do in construction in conjunction with the construction of the project. So in those cases, an owner can request an additional stub, and they're based upon the average cost of what we get for bids on our construction projects. We look at that, and we've set the cost, we've suggested an increase from $1,200 to $1,500 per stub on the 4-inch stub. If somebody wants an extra 6-inch stub, that price would change from $1,300 to $1,700. And an 8 or 10-inch stub, that requires a manhole. This would be in the case where somebody anticipates developing their property in the future in a big way. And so that cost includes the manhole, and that would be $3,800 per stub. And you can imagine we're setting a manhole and putting a lateral 8-inch line out from at 90 degrees out from the main line. So it's quite expensive. But we realized in reviewing these costs that we weren't recovering through the costs that we had stated in the code. It wasn't recovering all of the associated costs, and so these adjustments are needed for that. That's pretty much the cost items that are embodied in this code revision language. There are a number of changes that we're proposing that I would characterize as in the administrative category. And these are improvements to the code language that enables us to do our business more effectively and more in line with the intent of the code. For example, number 2, establish the rules for the use of sewer connection charge agreements. We have a well-developed sewer connection charge agreement form that clearly allows the owner to document and select the payment provisions that they want for their connection charges. As you know, we offer a very flexible approach to payment of connection charges. They can be paid as a lump sum. They can be paid over a time period of up to 240 months, 20 years, with interest. But essentially, the owner can select a payment period that is 10 years or something less than 20 years if they prefer. And so a lot of flexibility, but what that calls for is an agreement form that basically enables the owner and the county to come to terms with what the charges are going to be over time and how they're going to be paid. So we've included language in that regard. Number 3, we're proposing that we add language to solidify the county's authority to assign and bill sewer connection charges with default provisions. And what we are getting at here is we sometimes have cases where we come across a use that has not been accounted for in the connection charges that are being paid, where the property owner is actually needing to pay additional connection charges based upon the use on the property. And in those cases, we notify the property owner and we give them notice of the various options that are available for them to pay their charges. And in most cases, we get a response back, timely response back from the property owner, and we go forward. In some cases, however, we do not get contact from the property owner, and we need a way to bring it to closure. And so the default that's identified in the code is that we put those charges on a 20-year payment plan, and we add those to the monthly bill. Now, if the owner subsequently wanted to come in and pay those as a lump sum, that would certainly be an option. But the default is that we proceed. Having not heard from the property owner, we put that on a 240-month payment plan. Number 4, we want to include language that provides for equitable treatment of certain senior living apartment complexes. Sorry about the inflection. Recognizing that these facilities typically have low water usage. And what we're targeting here is those apartment complexes that are made up entirely of assisted living and independent living units. And typically these apartment complexes will have a central dining area, and they will have staff on site around the clock for help in emergency situations and so forth. And so we're proposing to treat those types of apartment complexes the same way that we treat a commercial account. That is, we look at their water usage and we assign their charges based upon their water usage. And what that will result in is a much lower and equitable, I should say, rate for these complexes, because they typically, as opposed to a typical apartment unit, which is about 7/10 of an equivalent residential unit, these apartment units will typically run around 25 to 30% of an equivalent residential unit. So again, we're trying to build in some equity here, an equitable approach for these senior living complexes, and that's why we want to do this. Number 5, we're proposing that we add language that is actually aligned with the allowances under RCW 35.67.210. And what this is all about is that we typically, our practice has been to file liens after 60 days or after the unpaid balance on a sewer bill has risen to a substantial amount. And this RCW provides that we essentially have a virtual lien, I'll put it that way, without recording a lien for a 12-month period. And this is a very desirable approach to dealing with these liens, because it protects us when we've got an unpaid bill and the property changes hands. The closing agent will understand that we have a lien for that unpaid amount. Let's say it's 8 months, even though we haven't recorded a document stating as such. So it's a good RCW, and we folded that into our code language. Number 6, clarify eligibility for sewer service fee credits, waivers, and adjustments under special circumstances. We have a provision that recognizes that when people have a hardship, they have an emergency, they have something like a fire that happens on the property and makes the structure uninhabitable, renders it useless. And in our view, the last thing that they need to be worried about in that situation is their sewer bill for sewer service. And this part of our code, which we have clarified and expanded on, provides for certain credits, waivers, and adjustments under circumstances, hardship circumstances, and for example, under a condition where a business has folded and the property has been rendered unusable by the previous tenant, or it's not a situation where somebody can simply move right in and start using the building. And we will allow under those kinds of situations that they can get a waiver on their operation and maintenance portion of their bill, but they still need to continue to pay the wastewater treatment plant charge portion of the bill, which is about $18 a month, because that's paying the debt service on our treatment plant, and we need that to continue. So we've spruced up that language to provide, again, complete relief for situations where there's a fire and partial relief for other situations that are deemed a hardship. Number 7, last but not least, you'll see throughout the document with the strikeout and underline that we have clarified definitions and made general improvements to the code language to clean up typos, grammar, formatting, and also to reflect the name change of our department from the Division of Utilities to the Environmental Services Department. So lots of 3 or 4 word changes, to clean up the code, but very well worth the trouble. I want to thank my staff for their hard work on the preparation of these proposed amendments. It was a lot of work, and they got together for about 8 different work sessions. We're basically locked in a conference room together to sort out the wording. And I want to give special thanks to Maureen Adess, to Mark Stiltz, to Jean Repp, who is with us here in the audience, and to Christine Chase, my staff assistant, who pulled it all together. And we recommend to the board that these code revisions be adopted, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Does my fellow commissioner have any questions? Nope. So I just want to say thank you very much, because it looks like, based on the proposed rate increase, that you really did take the time to go back through and adjust any of the other items that needed to happen in this code section. So again, thank your department and all your staff for the hard work, because I know it's not easy to go through all the fine details of all of that and make all those changes. And very thoughtful, some of those, with some of the different RCWs and putting in, like the language on number 5, for people. And so I just want to say thank you to you and your staff for taking the time to really do it and do it right.
Thank you.
So this is an open public, this is a public hearing. I'm going to consider proposed increases to sewer service fees and other additions, deletions, and modifications to Spokane County Code, Chapter 8.03 Sanitary Sewer Code. So if anyone wants to testify, we need you to fill out a yellow form. I don't have anyone listed as wanting to testify, but if somebody would like to, you're welcome to come up and then just fill out a form at the end. At the end? Yeah.
My name is Margaret Asbell. I live in the Spokane Valley. I have a problem neighbor that I've had for over 13 years. He doesn't pay his bills. He's living on a trust. This is one of the bills that's almost $10,000. So he's not getting his bills paid, but now the people that are paying the bills are now being punished by 50 cents more to upgrade. And yes, we do need an upgrade, I understand that, but why are we not punishing the ones that are not paying? A lien on the property means nothing if they haven't got an income. They don't have anything, but they're living there scot-free, and that's not right for the ones that are paying their bills. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank
And I'll get
you.
a yellow for it. Oh, perfect. Thank you very much.
And if, Mr. Cook, if you'd like to address that?
Sure. Thank you very much for your testimony. I imagine that with a bill that large, it's very likely that part of the unpaid charges are connection charges or the capital facilities rate. Maybe not, but I mean, that would be my first thought. And at some point here in the relatively near future, we will be going through the exercise that we've needed to go through before, and then that is to move forward with foreclosures on accounts that are tremendously out of sorts with regard to the amounts that they owe. And so that's about the only recourse that we have when a bill gets that large. And we do have a number of those. It's unfortunate, but we do have a number of those who have allowed their amounts due to get very large, and we have no choice but to take action through a foreclosure process.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are still in our open public testimony, so this is second call for anyone wishing to testify. Third and final call for anyone wishing to testify on this hearing item. Seeing no more, I will close the hearing. I'll look to my fellow commissioner.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the recommendation of hearing item number 5 as presented by staff.
I will second that. So it's been moved in second to recommend hearing item number 5 as presented by staff. Any discussion?
I just want to highlight, I think there's some very, very important aspects of this. I think that as Commissioner Cuny highlighted, number 5, having to do with the liens on the properties. I also believe it was number 4 as well for the senior living centers. I think that is something very important, that facilities like that provide such an important service, that we are charging them more equitably and not charging them for uses that they're not actually utilizing. And I think it's important that that we have a county government that is operating under a cost recovery system, and I think this brings us in line with that. And I think so in that case, that's why I'm going to support the motion tonight.
Very good. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it passes 2-0 with Commissioner French absent. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our final open public forum. If anyone would like to have any other comments, again, just need you to fill out a yellow form and come on down. So first call for anyone wanting to speak at our open public forum. Second call. Third and final call. I will close our open public forum, and that concludes our agenda for today. And so I just want to say thank you very much for being here.